Hello, welcome to my channel. Enjoy your viewing and have a good romantic mood. Je meet Alexei. This is my daughter, Irina. She lived with her mother in Europe. Now she lives with me. Irina, this is Alex Gray. We've known each other for 100 years. Hrishchenko stretches out, while I bury my hands deeper in my pockets, clenching them into fists. In front of me stands yesterday's girl, the poor student I rescued from sniffling thugs. And who smeared me in the ring. So, did you make it to the dorm? I lean over the girl, making sure GLYB doesn't hear us. Did the trolleybus break down? No, Mr. Gray, everything went fine, she replies, batting her eyelashes halfway. And I'm covered. Yesterday, I became her first man. And today I find out she's Irina Hrishchenko, my friend's daughter. A cloud rises in my chest, clouding my consciousness. I step back, not believing my own ears. Irina. Krok. You're. Yes, Mr. Gray, she confirms, lowering her eyes. It's me. GLYB turns around, not understanding our silent drama. What happened? He asks. Do you know each other? Yes, I mutter, averting my eyes from Irina. Very old acquaintances. He looks at both of us, squinting slyly. And you aren't, he begins, but I cut him off. No, GLYB, nothing like that, I say. Just old university friends. He nods, not very convinced, but not insisting. Well then, he continues. Glad you two know each other. Irina, show Alex to your room, he probably wants to freshen up after the journey. The girl nods and leads me to the stairs. I follow her like a zombie, feeling no ground under my feet. Irina, I say when we enter her room. This is just awful. I know, she whispers. I don't know what to say. You didn't tell me you were GLYB's daughter, I blurt out. I was afraid, she confesses. Afraid of your reaction. My reaction? I repeat. Irina, I can't find the words. She. You what? She asks, lifting pleading eyes to me. You. I can't say the word. I love you, Alexei, she whispers. I freeze. Love? Me? My friend's daughter? It's impossible. We can't, I say. It's impossible. Why? She asks, her eyes filling with tears. Because you're his daughter, I shout. We can't be together. But I love you, she pleads. What should I do? I don't know, I say, bewildered. I can't. I rush out of the room without saying goodbye. Irina is left alone, crying on the floor. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Only one name was spinning in my head. Irina. Her eyes, her tears, her pleas. I knew she was telling the truth. She had fallen in love with me. But how? How could this happen? Yesterday she was just a girl I saved from an attack. Today, she's my best friend's daughter. For a whole decade, I was friends with GLYB. We studied together, started businesses together, experienced ups and downs together. He trusted me as he trusted himself. And I betrayed his trust in the most despicable way. A hot wave of shame engulfed me. How could I do this? How could I take advantage of her vulnerability, her fear? She was scared, she needed help, and I behaved like the lowest scoundrel. With a groan, I ran my hand through my hair. My thoughts raced like spooked horses. Something had to be done. I had to talk to Irina, explain everything to her. But what could I say? How could I justify my shameful behavior? It took me several hours before I dared to go downstairs. GLYB was sitting in the kitchen, sipping his coffee alone. He looked troubled. Alex? He exclaimed, raising his head. Are you awake already? Want me to make you some coffee? I sat across from him, avoiding his gaze. GLYB, I started, my voice hoarse. We need to talk. Something happened? He asked, alert. It's about Arena. I muttered. His eyebrows shot up. He set down his cup and looked at me intently. What about Arena? He asked, his voice becoming serious. I gathered my courage and blurted it all out at once. Last night, something happened between us. GLYB was silent, his face turning red. He clenched his fists, and a vein pulsed on his temple. Something happened between you? He asked through clenched teeth. Yes, I whispered, expecting thunder and lightning. But it didn't come. GLYB leaned back in his chair, covering his face with his hands. A deep sigh escaped his throat. Damn it, Alex, he muttered. Damn it. I hung my head, not daring to break the silence. Several minutes passed before GLYB spoke again. And what does Arena say? He asked. She's in love with me, I replied. But she understands it's wrong. He sighed again. And you? He asked. Do you feel anything for her? I hesitated. Should I confess? Or would it be another blow for him? I don't know, I finally replied. She's beautiful, smart, but you can't be with her, he finished my thought. I understand. He nodded. Well, GLYB said, getting up. We need to talk to Arena. He headed upstairs, and I remained sitting in the kitchen, feeling like the lowest of the low. Crossing my arms over my chest, I sat on the couch, waiting for GLYB and Arena. Every creak of the stairs made me jump. Finally, the door opened, and they entered. GLYB looked tired but composed. Arena, her eyes were red from tears, but she held herself with dignity. Sit down, GLYB said, indicating the chairs opposite me. They sat in silence. The atmosphere in the room was tense. You could cut it with a knife. Arena, GLYB began. Alex told me everything. The girl nodded, biting her lip. I don't know what to say, I muttered, feeling worthless. You don't have to say anything, GLYB replied. It's my fault. I raised my head in surprise. You? I asked. Why? Because I never told you about Arena. He confessed. I thought she'd be better off living with her mother. But I guess I was wrong. But she's grown up, I pointed out. She's grown up, he agreed. But she's still my daughter. And I didn't want her to fall into bad company, into a bad environment. He gave me a meaningful look. I hung my head in shame. And she did, I whispered. GLYB seit. Yes, she did, he said. But now we need to fix it somehow. He looked at both of us in turn. You both understand that you can't be together? He asked. We both nodded. Good. He continued. Then here's what I propose. Arena will stay here for now, and you, Alex, will move to another apartment. GLYB, I can't just leave like that. I protested. Your apartment. It's fine, we'll manage. He cut me off. The main thing is that you two don't see each other. It will take time for everything to settle down. And how much time? Arena asked, her voice trembling. I don't know, GLYB honestly replied. Maybe a month, maybe 2, or maybe more. It depends on you. He stood up and walked to the window. I need some time alone, he said. You talk amongst yourselves if you want. And he left the room. We were left alone, not knowing what to say. Irina stood up and walked to the window, her back hunched. I'm so sorry, Alex, she whispered. And I am too, I replied. But this can't go on. I know, she said, turning back to me. But maybe someday. She didn't finish. She approached me, her eyes filled with tears. And before I could say anything, she hugged me tightly. I frotze. Her warmth, her scent. It all stirred up my emotions again. But I knew I couldn't reciprocate. Carefully, I pushed her away. No, Irina, I said firmly. This is impossible. Tears streamed down her cheeks. She nodded and ran out of the room, burying herself in her own room. I sat back on the couch, feeling hollow. The next days dragged on slowly, like a stream. Tension hung in the house like a thundercloud. GLYB hardly spoke, lost in his thoughts. Irina walked with her head down, avoiding my gaze. I felt like an intruder, a bystander. Finally, the day of my move came. Friends helped me quickly move my things to the new apartment. It was a modest abode on the outskirts of the city, far away from GLYB. It smelled of fresh paint and emptiness. When the guys left, I looked around at the colorless walls, feeling the pang of loneliness. I missed the familiar coziness of the old apartment, GLYB's warm company, even his eternal teasing. Days passed. I immersed myself in work, trying to distract myself from intrusive thoughts about Irina. In the evenings, coming home, I inadvertently took the long way, avoiding the old building. Once, passing by a familiar entrance, I saw Irina. She stood by the door, talking on the phone. Her face was sad, her eyes red. My heart clenched. I wanted to approach her, talk to her, but what could I say? It was better to remain unnoticed. I hid behind the corner of the building and watched as she got into a taxi and drove away. Where could she be going? This thought tormented me. Finally, unable to resist, I called GLYB. He answered reluctantly. GLYB, I asked, where did Irina go? To her mom's, he replied shortly. She decided to go back. But what about her studies? I muttert. She'll take an academic leave, GLYB said. She needs time. I understood. I whispered and hung up. Irina is leaving. Away from me. And although my mind approved, my heart ached with pain. Several weeks had passed. I tried to carry on with my life, but thoughts of Irina wouldn't leave me. I remembered her laughter, her touches, her sad eyes. She had become more to me than just the girl I had saved. One evening, unable to resist, I sat down at the computer and found Irina's page on social media. Her profile was private, but on the avatar, I saw a sad face, with familiar, pain-filled eyes. I wanted to message her, but what could I say? I couldn't suggest meeting up, couldn't confess my feelings. With a sigh, I closed the browser, feeling even more broken. Time dragged on slowly. Work, sleep, monotonous days that didn't differ from one another. And suddenly, one early morning, everything changed. The ring of the phone shattered the morning silence like thunder on a clear day. I groggily reached for it and glanced at the mobile on the nightstand. An unfamiliar number was displayed on the screen. Without expecting anything special, I answered. Hello. I murmured, my voice hoarse from sleep. Alex. Came a cautious female voice. It's Irina. I instantly woke up. Sleepiness fell from my eyelids like a stone. Irina? I asked, my heart beating faster. Is that you? Yes, she replied. Are you glad to hear from me? Her voice trembled, and I could sense her uncertainty. Of course, I'm glad, I hurried to assure her. Where are you? What happened? I'm in the hospital, she whispered. In the hospital? Blood drained from my face. What's wrong with you? Are you sick? No, not exactly, she replied. But I need your help. She paused, gathering her courage. I held my breath, waiting for her next words. Alex, she finally continued. I'm pregnant. Those words hit me like a thunderbolt. Pregnant? Arena? My mind refused to process this information. Pregnant? I stammered, not believing my own ears. Yes, she whispered again. I only found out a week ago. And what? I started, but she interrupted me. I don't know what to do, she confessed, her voice trembling. The father of the child, he left me. I'm alone. And I'm scared. Fear. That's what Arena felt. And suddenly, everything became clear. Her departure, her closed-off demeanor, her sadness in the avatar. She wasn't just going through a breakup, she was terrified. And your parents? I asked. Do they know? No, she replied. I haven't dared to tell them yet. They've done so much for me, I'm afraid to disappoint them. And GLYB? I whispered barely audibly. He knows, she replied. He met me at the airport. But I didn't want to burden him with my problems. He's already done so much for me. I stayed silent. I didn't need to see her face to imagine her fear and despair. She was alone, backed into a corner. Where are you now? I finally asked. Which hospital? The city hospital on Shevchenko Street. She answered. I'm in room number 5. Wait for me there, I said decisively. I'll be there soon. There was no time for contemplation or hesitation. Arena needed my help, and I couldn't ignore her. I rushed to the hospital, breaking every traffic rule in the book. Countless thoughts raced through my head. Pregnant. Arena. My Arena. My responsibility? Fear for Arena mixed with anxiety about the future. I hadn't planned on parenthood, but the thought of Arena facing this problem alone was unbearable. As I sped onto the hospital grounds, I nearly knocked over an elderly lady slowly pushing a cart. Apologizing profusely, I dashed towards the main building, searching for the right department. Finally, finding room number 5, I breathlessly pushed open the door. Arena lay on the bed, pale and frightened. Her eyes were red from crying. Alex, she whispered when she saw me. You really came? Of course, I came, I replied, approaching the bed. How are you? Better, she replied, weakly smiling. Just a little scared. I sat on the chair beside the bed. Her hand lay on the sheet, so delicate and familiar. I wanted to take it, to comfort her, but I hesitated. What do the doctors say? I asked. Everything's fine, she replied. Just a bit of morning sickness, but the baby is okay. That's wonderful, I murmured. And have you decided what to do? She was silent, lowering her eyes. Abortion? I whispered barely audibly. Arena raised her head sharply. No. She declared firmly. Never. I could never do that. I breathed a sigh of relief. I couldn't live with the thought of her getting rid of the baby because of me. Well, then what? I asked. I don't know, she confessed again. I'm afraid to tell my parents. I'm afraid they'll disown me. They won't disown you, I assured her. They love you. And you? She suddenly asked, her eyes meeting mine. How do you feel about this? My heart beat faster. I didn't need much time to understand the answer. Yes, I was scared. Yes, it was unexpected. But I couldn't leave her alone in this difficult situation. Ariana. I spoke, taking her hand in mine. I don't know what lies ahead for us. But I'm here, with you. And I won't let you be alone. Tears welled up in her eyes again. She squeezed my hand in response. Thank you, Alex, she whispered. Thank you for being here. At that moment, the door to the room opened, and Gleb walked in. Seeing us, he stopped in the doorway, surprised. A range of emotions flickered across Gleb's face. Surprise, pain, even a hint of anger. He hesitated at the threshold, unable to step inside. Gleb, I spoke up, rising from the chair. You came. He remained silent, his gaze shifting between me and Ariana. Ariana, perhaps we could talk alone? He finally asked, his voice tense.
No, Ariana replied decisively.
Let Alex stay. He has the right to know. Gleb sighed and entered the room. He sat on a chair by the window, his back tense. Ariana, what is Alex doing here? He asked, not turning around. He came because I called him, she replied.
I'm pregnant, Gleb.
Silence filled the room. Only the loud thumping of my heart could be heard. I awaited Gleb's reaction, fearing his anger. Pregnant? He finally whispered.
Is.
Is this true? Yes. Ariana confirmed. I found out just a week ago. And who's the father? He asked, his voice hoarse with emotion. Alex. Ariana whispered, her eyes filled with fear. Gleb turned sharply, his eyes filled with pain and outraged disbelief. You? He thundered, addressing me. How could you? She's practically a child. Gleb, calm down. Ariana pleaded. It was an accident. We're not to blame. Accident? He repeated sarcastically. That's not how accidents work. Gleb. I intervened, trying to maintain calm. We understand this is bad. But it happened, and now we need to deal with it. He was silent, his face flushing red. He took a deep breath, trying to compose himself. Fine. He finally gritted out. We'll talk later. Leave us alone, Alex. I didn't want to leave, but I understood they needed time to talk privately. Fine. I muttered and left the room. Waiting in the corridor, I felt shattered. All my plans and dreams were falling apart before my eyes. I didn't know what would happen next. Could Gleb forgive me? Could Ariana forgive me for complicating these difficult relationships? Several hours passed before the door opened again. Gleb emerged. His face looked tired but more composed. Alex, he spoke up. We need to talk. I approached him. Go ahead, I replied. Gleb led me to the side of the stair landing. We stopped by the window, which overlooked the city life. He took a few deep breaths, gathering his thoughts. Alex, he finally spoke, his voice hoarse. I can't say I'm not angry. You're my friend, almost like a brother. And you've done wrong. Very wrong. I hung my head, unable to meet his gaze. And he was right. I betrayed his trust, let down his daughter. I know, I muttered. There's no excuse for what I did. But, Gleb continued, Ariana is a grown woman. And she's pregnant. We can't pretend this didn't happen. He paused for a moment. So, I want to know, his voice grew firm. Are you going to take responsibility? I lifted my head and met his gaze. And in that moment, I understood. My decision didn't just determine my future, but also Ariana's and her child's life. Yes, I replied firmly. I will take responsibility. I'll stand by Ariana. I'll be a father to this child. Gleb looked at me for a long moment, as if assessing my words. Then he nodded slowly. All right, he said. I believe you. But you understand, this won't be easy. I understand, I replied. But I'm willing to try. We fell silent again. The tension eased slightly, but the atmosphere was still serious. I'll talk to Ariana, Gleb finally said. Explain your position to her. But she'll make her own decision about what to do next. Of course, I agreed. It's her child. And one more thing, Gleb added, looking me straight in the eyes. If you hurt her again. He didn't finish the sentence, but the threat hung in the air, clear even without words. It won't happen, I promised sincerely. I don't want to lose her. Gleb nodded. Then he patted me on the shoulder and said, let's go, let's get back to Ariana. We returned to the room. Ariana was sitting on the bed, her face troubled. She looked up when she saw us, hope flickering in her eyes. Gleb, did you talk to him? She asked, her voice trembling. Yes, I did, he replied, approaching her bed. Alex understands the situation and is taking responsibility. Ariana glanced at me, seeking confirmation. He nodded. He's willing to be there for you and the baby, Gleb added. Ariana fell silent, tears filling her eyes. Suddenly, she rose from the bed and threw herself into my arms, holding me tightly. Thank you, Alex, she whispered. Thank you for not backing down. I embraced her in return, feeling the warmth of her body and the scent of the hospital. These hugs were a promise, the beginning of a new path filled with challenges but also hope and love. Gleb, Ariana said, leaning back from me and looking at her father. You don't mind if Alex stays with me, do you? Gleb looked at us, emotions flickering across his face. Sorrow, acceptance, and then a faint smile. No, he replied. I don't mind. You probably need some time to talk now. He kissed Ariana on the forehead and turned to me. Alex, I'll leave. But I'll come by again tomorrow. All right, I replied. Gleb left the room, leaving us alone. We sat on chairs by the bed, not knowing what to say to each other. But now we had plenty of time to talk, plan for the future, and learn to be a family. Maybe not the way we once imagined, but still a family. The sun was setting, casting a soft golden light into the room. Ariana, a bit pale but with a sparkle in her eyes, lay on the bed, holding my hand. We silently watched the birds circling outside the window, singing their evening songs. Suddenly, Ariana turned to me and whispered, Alex, you understand that this won't be easy, right? He nodded. Of course, I understand, I replied. It won't be the life we planned. But we'll get through it, she said firmly. Together, we can handle anything. I smiled at her. I believe in us, I said. We're stronger than we think. She smiled back slightly. Then she ran her hand over my face and said, Thank you, Alex. For not giving up, for believing in me and our child. I leaned in and gently kissed her lips. It was a tender kiss, filled with love, promises, and hope. I'll always love you, Ariana, I whispered. And I'll love our child. She hugged me, and we sat there for a long time, silently but with a deep sense of connection that bound us together. Months passed. Ariana recovered, and we prepared for the arrival of the baby together. It wasn't easy. We faced numerous challenges, doubts, and fears. But we went through it all together, supporting each other. Finally, the day arrived. Ariana was in labor, and I was by her side, holding her hand and whispering words of encouragement. When the tiny, delicate creature came into the world, I felt my heart overflowing with love. Our daughter, Anya, was incredible. She was a little miracle that gave us a sense of purpose in life. Ariana and I adored her, spending every free moment with her. Over time, the pain from Gleb's betrayal faded. We forgave each other and maintained friendly relations. He often visited to see Anya, and she adored him. Life wasn't always smooth sailing. There were difficulties and disappointments. But we always stuck together, supporting and inspiring each other. We learned to appreciate what we had, our family, our love, our life. One warm summer evening, when Anya had grown up a bit and was playing in the garden, Ariana and I sat on the terrace, embracing. Silently, we watched the sunset, painting the sky in all shades of orange and pink. Do you remember how we met? Ariana suddenly asked. Of course, I smiled. You fell from the ladder, and I saved you. It was so funny and unexpected, she whispered. Who would have thought that would be the start of our story? I never regretted saving you, I said, kissing her forehead. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. Ariana turned her eyes from the sunset to me, her eyes shining with love and gratitude. She continued. And do you remember how you confessed your love to me? It was under the same tree where we met. You were so shy, but sincere. I scratched my head, recalling that moment. I seemed like I was about to sink through the ground. I admitted. Ariana laughed, a melodious sound that always enchanted me. You were charming, she argued. And your words made my world brighter. We fell silent, enjoying the memories. Then I took her hand in mine and gently kissed her palm. Shariana, I began. I know things didn't turn out as we planned. But I can't imagine my life without you and Anya. You're my greatest happiness. She brought my hand to her cheek and tenderly rubbed it against her. And you, Alex, she whispered. You're my love, my support, my better half. Even through all the hardships, we've built a family filled with love. I leaned in and kissed her, this time deeper and more passionately. The kiss conveyed all my love, gratitude, and a promise of loyalty. When we pulled away, breathless, I saw the same spark in her eyes that had ignited there many years ago, under the same tree. You want to know what I think? I whisperet. What? She asked, her voice trembling with excitement. I think this is the best beginning to our story. I replied, looking into her eyes with a sincere smile. A story that may not have been perfect, but became ours, filled with love, family, and happiness. Ariana smiled widely in response. She glanced at Anya, still playing in the garden, and her eyes filled with tenderness. You're right, she said. This is our own fairy tale ending, written with love, forgiveness, and faith in each other. The sun had already set completely, and the sky was painted in dark shades of blue, sprinkled with diamonds of stars. We sat in each other's arms, watching our daughter run around the garden, her laughter echoing in the warm night silence. Thank you for being with us today. I hope that this story has brought you emotions. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it, subscribe to the channel, and click on the bell so you don't miss any of our new stories. Thank you for your support. You are the best.